Hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well then. Hope you had a great Christmas. And welcome to TubeMix's Highlights of the Year 2024. With me, your host, Will or TubeMix, either will do. So in this show I'm basically looking back at, well, what's been a busy year on the channel. There's been so many different videos. Of course it was the year where I launched my first, launched the rebirth of my football show Without Him I Kicked a Ball, and there was also the times that Ben Moss came, and in fact when the tables were turned and he grilled me on what I thought about Shooty Gatwa's first series as the Doctor, uh, for his first series of Doctor Who, and yeah, there's also my tribute to Steve Wright and chatting about the various changes of Radio 2. So there's going to be lots to pack, and well, first I talked about it, well, in this intro. Here's a clip of when the tables were turned and Ben Moss decided he would grill me on what I thought about Shooty's first series in charge of the TARDIS, for his first series of Doctor Who, since taking over from Jodie Whittaker and briefly David Tennant. So, yes, here's a clip from that. Enjoy.
Welcome to TubeMix. My name is Ben, or Bubbles if you like. I'm here to grill Will on his thoughts on season 1 of Doctor Who. Of course, we've been doing a lot of interviews on this channel with us discussing Doctor Who, but we thought we'd turn the tables this time, and I would grill Will on what his thoughts were on the series instead of it being more of a discussion. If you like this, please let us know. We might be able to continue this in the future. So, without further ado, are you ready to be grilled?
Yes, I am.
Bacon or sausage?
Very
good. So, we are going to start with, well, technically episode 0, with the Christmas special, The Church on Ruby Road. So my first question, Will, is overall thoughts. What were your overall thoughts of The Church on Ruby Road?
Not great. Although I could understand it being it was a very daft episode, but you could kind of let it slip because it's Christmas Day. People who are not generally Doctor Who fans, like if you have family round, can watch it. So I could kind of let it slip. But no, I thought it was compared to the Christmas Invasion, compared to the End of Time. There'd be loads of Christmas specials that I'd rather watch than this one.
So one of the big marketing things for The Church on Ruby Road was the Goblin song.
Yes.
And surprise, surprise, we now have a Doctor and companion who have a bit of a sing-song with the Goblins. What do you think of the Goblin song and how that was incorporated into the episode?
I didn't like it. I didn't mind the Star Wars genre. Now I'm very fussy when it comes to musical genres. I don't like Broadway jazz, hence can't stand cabaret or Chicago. But no, I didn't mind the genre. I didn't mind her voice generally. I mean, well, some of it made me groan, but I would have rather it didn't have the Goblin song because I thought the Doctor singing was a bit too far for me. So no, I hated it really.
What was your opinion? What was your first opinion on Miss Ruby Sunday?
Well, she's sort of like a sort of well, basic Clara 2.0, but in my view, Millie Gibson, and this is brutal, but she's a poor person's Jenna Coleman.
You heard it here first, folks. Put that on the headlines.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ruby is a a pound shop Clara Oswald. In fact, probably with less depth than Clara. So yeah.
Apologies to Millie Gibson if she is watching this.
I
1,000.
I apologize. I have to be honest here. I can't hold back when it's that. So
So, my final question before we move into the season proper: where would you say the Church on Ruby Road ranks in terms of the other Doctor Who Christmas specials?
well, for me probably 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Abysmal. Yeah, never want to see it again.
2 out of 10. And you don't want to see it again. He's a poet, guys, and he didn't know it. So we are moving.
So it wasn't. I didn't even. That was not intended. Literally.
Musical genius right here on the channel.
Quite ironic, given I did like a musical number in the episode, and
Yep. Well, it turns out maybe you should write the next musical number for Doctor Who. Who knows?
Oh god, let's move.
So
on.
moving on, we've got 2 episodes to talk about next because they are very much connected because they were released together.
And you'll have to watch the video to find out what scores I gave the rest of the episodes from Shooty's first series. And you'll see more from Ben later. So, as you know, I'm a listener to BBC Radio 2, and 2024 has been a very eventful year for the station. In some ways, it's been a bit like 2016. We had a DJ passing away, a DJ who had to retire due to health issues, and other schedule changes. Because, in 2016, of course, we had, the shock passing of Ed Stewart, who just a couple of days earlier, Christmas Day 2015, he presented his Junior Choice show. Then we had the shock passing of Sir Terry Wogan. Then we had the sacking of Tony Blackburn. Then we had... Sorry, just trying to think. Oh yes, then we had Desmond Carrington having to retire due to health issues. And then we had Brian Matthew having to take time off and then having to retire himself. So, in 2024 we had the shock passing of Steve Wright. We had Johnny Walker having to hang up his headphones due to ill health because it was revealed in June that he suffered from pulmonary fibrosis, which is a scarring of the lungs. And Johnny just couldn't continue, so he had to hang up his headphones. And then we had the departure of Zoe Ball from the Radio 2 breakfast show after 6 years. And that, of course, means, other people have to be shifted round the schedule. So Trevor Nelson replaces Scott Mills in the afternoons while Scott Mills takes over from Zoe. Then DJ Spoonie moves into Trevor Nelson's slot, so that's Monday to Thursday, 10 till midnight. And then Sophie Ellis Bextor's Kitchen Disco gets promoted from a 1 hour sort of graveyard slot, 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning, to a 2 hour slot, 8 till 10 on Friday nights, replacing Spoonie. So yes, that's going to be interesting. But Wrighty's passing was a huge shock, and I don't think any of us saw it coming. So I'll tell you what, let's give you a clip from my tribute to Steve Wright, and then let's give you a clip from me talking about the various schedule changes, in the wake of Zoe's departure. So, yes, tribute to Wrighty first, and then further Radio 2 schedule changes after that. Hello everyone, this is Will or TubeMix here, either will do. And like many of you, I was really surprised on February the 13th too, of the passing of Steve Wright. Just the Sunday, I'd listen to him doing what he was usually doing, Sunday love songs. I'd listen to the end of that to get ready for listening to Michael Ball. And in October, of course, he took over the mighty Pick of the Pops. And while I'd stopped listening to that, I knew about it. He was on, as usual, on the previous Saturday. So it was a huge shock. Like many of you, there was no warning. I mean, Sir Terry Wogan, had to put out Children in Need, and then, they got, I think, Ryan Tubridy and Patrick Kilty. In fact, I remember when Ryan Tubridy stood in, someone emailed him saying, "Oh, you're doing a good job in for your grandfather," because of course Ryan Tubridy was a young Irishman and Terry was a older Irishman. So yeah, obviously Ryan Tubridy and Patrick Kilty, and then you may remember that Terry used to share the Sunday slot with Richard Madeley, and so Richard Madeley did the rest of the year, because I guess the current block had ended, and then Richard Madeley would have been doing that Christmas period anyway. So yeah, but there wasn't any warning. So yeah, utter shock, and well done to Sarah Cox for delivering the news, and it was very hard for her and Joe Wiley, and it was very, very strange, and very unexpected, of course. And I listened to The Big Show, Steve Wright in the Afternoon, for many years. I'd often listen to that, and Chris Evans when he used to do Drive Time, so I used to listen to both, and then Steve into Simon Mayo. Now when Simon Mayo left Drive Time, I stopped listening to The Big Show because I tended to think of it as a package. Steve's show, and then Simon / Chris, with Drive Time. And also I felt that I felt when they used to have Ask Elvis, I think it was comedian Mitch Benn doing that, and Barry from Watford, the character, and the old woman, that was when the show was at its best. Serious Jockin, when that came in, I sort of got a bit fed up of it, so I stopped listening to the show. I came back over lockdown listening to it, as many of you probably had, and I was listening to Radio 2 a lot during lockdown because, music and DJs and sort of, lightness. So, and then of course I stopped listening to it again, and then I listened because, to see Steve off, because, I'd listened to the show so many times over the years, so it just felt right to sort of listen to his final few shows, really, and see him out the door, and like I said, it was just a shock. I mean, so many people, grew up with Steve, and Steve was really a pioneer. He used to go to America and would actually go there and listen to whatever the radio was there. It was Steve that first brought in the zoo format, so that's basically when you have a DJ and then lots of hosts that you hear on air and the producers that you sometimes hear on air. And Steve got that, and many other DJs such as Chris Moores and Chris Evans. I don't think we would have had them without Steve Wright. So Steve Wright was truly a pioneer. He came to Radio 2 in 1996, presenting 2 shows, Sunday Love Songs, and in the slots that was formerly accompanied by occupied. Sorry, the slot was occupied by. Well, it's now occupied by Romesh Ranganathan, formerly Claudia Winkleman / Graham Norton / Jonathan Ross. So Steve did that show for a couple of years. And you may think Sunday Love Songs is, a Steve Wright show, but really, Sunday Love Songs was inspired, and Steve said that in an interview, inspired by the actor Gerald Harper. Now, if you know who he is, he used to do a show on Capital Radio, and I think did some Saturday shows on BBC Radio 2 in the early 90s. And it was basically playing classic love songs, and he would give champagnes and chocolates out. And Steve used to give out chocolates and flowers and classic love songs. The twist, of course, being that there would be some current pop songs, which are love songs. So, yeah, that started in 1996, and Steve did it all the way till his passing. And the show would often be pre-recorded, and generally, unlike the afternoon show, which would have stand-in host deputising, generally Steve would always pre-record Sunday Love Songs. But there was a few occasions. I remember Cilla Black sitting in for Steve. I remember Janie Lee Grace, one of Steve's co-presenters on The Big Show, sitting in. I remember Angela Griffin. I thought she was really wonderful. Nikki Chapman, who of course has been keeping the seat warm, she sat in. And I don't remember this, but apparently Ronan Keating sat in. This is before his move to Magic. And yeah, he sat in for a couple of shows as well. So there have been people who sat in for love songs. But yeah, generally it was Steve's show, really. But yeah, the show's going to be continuing with Michael Ball as the host. And that's going to be the next video, delving into my reaction to that and stuff. And yeah, 1999 was when he began The Big Show on Radio 2. And before that, of course, The Big Show was on Radio 1. And it was 1982 to 1984. 1994. 1993, because 1994, Steve moved to The Breakfast Show, of course, yeah. And a lot of there was a lot of characters, there was Mr. Angry with his, I'm so angry, I could throw the phone down. So yeah, that was quite funny listening to all the bits. Often Peter Dixon, who you might know as the voice of the X Factor, or if you don't know who he is, you will certainly know his voice. Got a brilliant voiceover voice. Well, he used to do lots of characters. And yeah, it was just generally so great. It was very interesting to listen to one of Steve's old shows, a clip that someone had, had uploaded, and he hadn't changed at all. He was still doing impressions of his fellow DJs, and he's still doing his impressions of fellow celebs or singers he was playing. So he never really changed at all, really. He even had a brief music career. He did I'm Alright, which was sort of a pastiche, a takeoff of Chaz and Dave, Steve and the Afternoon Boys. Yeah, I think they were called. So yeah, that was really great. Steve was, of course, the presenter of Top of the Pops, and he also narrated the archive show Top of the Pops 2 as well. He also presented the short-lived Steve Wright's People show, which was sort of a chat show, and he also presented a show called Home Troops, not the Radio 4 show, which was that John Peel hosted. No, this was a completely different show. but yeah, I think Steve, for him, radio was really his home. Unlike people who've crossed over from radio to TV, like Chris Evans and Sir Terry Wogan, Ed Stewart. For Steve, radio was really naturally his home. And I think whatever your opinion of Steve is, and I'll admit he did annoy me at times because, he would often cut songs short because he's got to have so many jingles, because he had to have so many jingles. I think radio will miss Steve because of how much of a pioneer he was, how innovative he was. And I think I think he'll be I think he'll be in the history books, really. Very, very important to UK radio, and I think lots of people will be remembering shows for years to come, I'm sure. So rest in peace, Steve. And in the next video I'm going to be going over my reaction to what's going to be happening with Sunday Love Songs and Pick the Pops. So I'll see you for that one. If you want to, like, share, comment and subscribe to the TubeMix YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hello everyone. This is Will, or TubeMix, either will do, and welcome. Now, I feel a lot better, so I will probably be back for this week's edition of Without Him and Kick the Ball. But first, I wanted to talk about the news today of the schedule changes for BBC Radio 2. So, it was announced that after 6 years, Zoe Ball would be stepping down from the breakfast show. And to be honest, well, it's not really a surprise, is it? She took 6 weeks off it was August and quite a bit of September, wasn't it? And they had Scott Mills sitting in, and Scott will be replacing her. Now, Scott never got Radio 1 breakfast because at the time, there was Chris Moyles and Nick Grimshaw, but Scott will be getting the Radio 2 breakfast show. And so obviously that means a slot opens up in the afternoon, and who gets that? Well, I don't think any of us saw this one coming. Trevor Nelson. Now, Trevor has been on daytimes before because he used to cover for Ken Bruce. But that didn't seem to last very long. Maybe the 40 just didn't suit it, really. And Gary Davis would suit it better. And so that's what they did. So Trevor's going to be replacing Scott in that 2 to 4 slot, 2 till 4 slot. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it? I mean, with Rhythm Nation's slot, it means that he doesn't have to play much of the daytime playlist. So I wonder if this show will actually last very long. We'll see. DJ Spoonie, so he currently hosts The Good Groove on Friday nights between 9 and 11. He moves to Monday to Thursday, 10 till midnight, so Trevor's slot. And DJ Spoonie covered for Trevor often on the Rhythm Nation, so this slot will suit him very well. And the press release said, so rather than Spoonie starting, a new show effectively, it seems like The Good Groove itself, the show, and maybe the features will be moving to Monday to Thursday. So that will be quite interesting, because if you listen to The Good Groove, Spoonie has a rewind selector where a guest basically picks their top tracks to go clubbing. Excuse me. So yeah, that's going to be interesting whether that carries over. And obviously, on the Good Groove, he has two mixes: the Good Groove '90s Party Mix, and the Good Grooves Deeper Cuts mix. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether he carries those over, and effectively if he's transplanting the whole format of that show to Monday to Thursday. So we'll see. Now on Friday nights, replacing Spoony with the Good Groove is, well, I did not see this coming, but this is really going to be interesting. Sophie Ellis Bextor's Kitchen Disco. So it's currently on Saturdays at 4 a.m. and it's only an hour long. And it's sort of like, well, those made for sounds shows. But this is going to be interesting to see whether it probably won't be live, but it'll be interesting to see whether there is some listener interaction and there's some more features. And yeah, that's going to be particularly interesting because I do like the show and I do like Sophie, but it is also a bit of a tough listen because, well, so basically, I'm just trying to think. So, say if you play the Bee Gees Jive Talking, and you hear an announcement from Colette Collins, who is the station voice of Radio 2, and you would hear, and you will hear, this is Sophie Ellis Bextor's Kitchen Disco from Radio 2. Then, if it's 2 tracks, then to the next track. This is Sophie Ellis Bextor's Kitchen Disco on BBC Sounds. And it's even worse if it's 3 tracks in a row because you get another announcement telling you what show it is. And yeah, it's not great really. In fact, it lets the show down really. I don't mind having the odd occasional announcement, but that suggests to me, because there's such a lack of links, that they're desperately trying to fill it with stuff. So I really hope this new extended 2-hour edition on Friday nights will be a better listen, and I hope, it doesn't have to be live, but I do hope there's some listener interaction, a bit more features, and, if there's listener interaction, then that means there's more links from Sophie. So yeah, we'll see. It's interesting because I thought because on bank holidays Sophie used to do live 2-hour kitchen discos, and then they didn't have them, and I thought, oh well, maybe it's because she's got her own show now and she's settled in and she's got loads of other commitments, obviously. And I thought, oh, Radio 2. And they don't seem to really advertise the show that much. It's not talked about that much. You don't hear many trailers for it. And I thought, well, by putting it at 4 a.m. says they've not got much confidence, has it? But clearly, again, it was another stepping stone. And so, yeah, that's going to be interesting. So, Sophie Ellis Bextor's Kitchen Disco will move from a 1-hour slot on Saturdays at 4 a.m. to Friday nights from 9 till 11. And then, well, I presume Sean Keaveney will be staying with The Rock Show. Now, Zoe Ball is going to be staying with Radio 2. They'll say they'll have more details in due course. So that's going to be interesting because, is it just going to be like documentaries and stand-ins, stand-in work, or is it going to be, is she going to have a new regular weekend slot? I mean, yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting because, so she started, and So she started on Radio 2 in 2006, and she deputised for other DJs, and she presented documentaries. Then in 2008, after Jonathan Ross was suspended due to the, Saxgate stuff, her and Danny Baker were put together to co-host a temporary Saturday morning show. Then in 2009, she got a Saturday morning show, 6 till 8, which is now the slot that Sounds of the 60s holds with Tony Blackburn. And then she left the station, she left her permanent slot, but she kept, depping in for other DJs and still was involved in the station. In fact, later in 2012, her and Richard Bacon presented a special Olympics show. So, yeah, clearly was still involved in the station. And then in 2017, she came back on a permanent basis to replace Dermot O'Leary on Saturday afternoons. Dermot, who replaced Sounds of the 60s, which moved to 6 till 8. So, yeah. And Dermot moved from 8 till 10. So, yeah, obviously she's done Saturday afternoons. She's done early Saturday mornings. Romesh has just started on Saturday mornings, as in the 10 a.m. slot. So it won't be there. So could it be that Leaves of Tarbuck is on her way out? I hope not, because I really enjoy Leaves' show. Having said that, if they were to move Zoe to Saturday evenings, and then Leaves of Tarbuck would move over to Sundays 5 till 7, which is currently Rob Beckett's slot. Then that would be a good option, because I can't help thinking that Leaves are into Sounds of the 80s is a bit jarring. Whereas Leaves on a Sunday would actually blend quite well, I think, with the schedule. Some people on the Digital Spy forum I've just seen, thinking, could she maybe be in Elaine Page's slot, maybe presenting a live musical theatre show? It's not impossible, but I don't know. If EP was to leave that slot, I think they'd still keep the show tunes, because show tunes are really popular, especially with the Wicked movie coming out, and musicals are still really, really popular. So I think they'd probably get either Samantha Barks, who has deputised for Elaine before, or Michelle Visage, who, she's depped in for Elaine before, and she's already on the station. Or could another thing, we see Michelle Visage leave Radio 2 and Zoe take over that 7 till 9 slot? Which, I suppose that's a possibility. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, won't we? Like I said, it's very interesting. Some really interesting moves here. Some that you could see coming, like Scott getting breakfast. Others, if you said to me Trevor getting weekday afternoons, I would have thought, no, not at all. That's really, really interesting. And will I listen to Scott in the morning? I don't know. I do find him a bit too dull in the afternoons. Because I used to listen to him and Chris Stark on 5 Live. Never used to listen to Radio 1. But, they were good bouncing off each other. Ooh, excuse me. Oh, sorry. They were good bouncing off each other, and I think Scott needs Well, he needs someone to bounce off with, in my view. So I just found afternoons on Radio 2 since he took over from the late great Steve Wright. Um, just too dull, really. But it'll be interesting to see whether Breakfast keeps the zoo format like Chris Evans and Zoe have done, or whether it'll be, well, like the old Wake Up to Wogan. Although, having said that, Terry did regularly interact with the newsreaders and, of course, had the Janet and John stories, so they were still part of the team, and his producers, Paul Walters and Alan Burlams Boyd, made on-air contributions as well. So, like I said, it's going to be very interesting. And what's going to take over that 4 a.m. slot on Saturdays? Could it be that Radio 2 might want to get Jessie Ware on a regular show? Jessie has stepped in for Joe Wiley. So, and of course she has a podcast, Table Manners, which she hosts with her mum Lenny. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see whether they might get her. I've noticed she's not debbed in for Joe this year. So maybe that's... Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes a sign of people covering is getting them tested to the Radio 2 audience and getting them with a regular show, depending on how well they're received. Or sometimes actually a sign of not doing too much cover means that they're not just going to stay as a stand-in. They're going to have a permanent slot at the station. So we will see. Arna Matronic started with her own series. Then she moved to do stand-in work, and then finally got her own show. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether we may see Jessie Ware maybe do series and her own sort of made for BBC Sounds overnight show, and then maybe if that does happen, then in a few years maybe she'll get a more prominent slot like Sophie has done, a promotion. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. If you want to, feel free to like, share, comment and subscribe to the TubeMix YouTube channel. And I just want to say a big thank you to Sam Taylor and Jordan Erlam for doing such a good job of hosting Without Ever Kicked a Ball. We're going to be recording the next edition tonight, and that's going to be great. I think it's going to be a state of play because, with the international break, there was no Premier League football, was there? So, I think we're going to be doing that. Alright, well, if you want to, feel free to like, share, comment and subscribe to the TubeMix YouTube channel. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Well, as it turned out, both those videos weren't too long at all. So I thought, well, why not just throw them both in? Right, now, next... Of course, you may have heard me talking about this. Well, of course, if you've subscribed to the channel, then you know I do a football show called Without Ever Kicked a Ball. And I did used to do a football show, doing pre-match build-ups to Manchester United games and big games. And then I just sort of lost my interest in football. And I wouldn't say I'd live and breathe football, but I do watch it again. I wouldn't say I'm a football fan, but I do read about it and watch it. But I'm not absolutely mad about it. And my good mate and friend of the channel, Mr. Ben Carney, he started this fantastic blog, Ben's Football Folio. Please check it out. It's just absolutely wonderful. The the way it's written, the pictures chosen, the layout, everything is absolutely brilliant about it. So keep up the good work, mate, because it's just absolutely fantastic. And that got me thinking, well, why don't we provide a companion piece to this? You've got the blog to read, and you've got the show to watch. And so I decided that's what we did. So here's a clip from the first edition of Without Ever Kicked a Ball. And if you want more Without Ever Kicked a Ball, well, there's loads of episodes to choose from. Just go to my YouTube channel. And there's also a best of compilation edition, and Without Ever Kicked a Ball will be back in the new year. But anyway, here's a clip from that first edition of the revamped show. Hello and welcome to the first episode of a brand new football series called Without Ever Kicked a Ball. Now usually the premise of the show will be to discuss the 4 football leagues. That's the Premier League, the Championship, League One and League Two. But for this first episode, we look back at UEFA Euro 2024, which of course the final was England v Spain, and Spain beat England by 2-1. And we have our panel to give their insights, their thoughts, and to share their point of view. And who's on our panel, you ask? Well, we have Jordan Lee Eartham, aka JLI Wheels, Robbie Broomall, and Sam Taylor. There's only one place to start for this first show, and 2 days after the Euros final, it was announced that after 8 years, Gareth Southgate had decided to step down as England manager. Gareth at first was under-21s manager, but then stepped in initially on a temporary basis after Sam Allardyce was forced to resign. Sam Allardyce, of course, replaced Roy Hodgson after he resigned when England were knocked out of Euro 2016 by Iceland. So, what are your thoughts on the decision for Gareth to resign?
Well, I personally think it's the right decision for him to step down, as I feel like he probably couldn't took that team any further than he could with how many tournaments has he done? 1, 2, 3, 4, is it? 4 tournaments and 1 quarter-final, 2 semi-finals, 3 semi-finals and 2 finals. I feel like it's been enough for him. I feel like if he did any more for England, he would just I don't think he could cope with the pressure anymore. And I feel that the time is right now to step down, and he could be very proud of himself of how well he's done under the England management, and how well he's done with the team that he's had.
It's a job
I
of...
think...
Oh, sorry, George. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I was just going to say, I think I completely agree with everything. I mean, it's one of those, again, where, you know, to be honest, he's been an England manager so long that I don't really remember a lot of the kind of initial opinions when he first came in. But I think a lot of it was, he's the FA's yes man, and, he's going to, it'll be another, disappointment. But you can't argue with how we've done and what we've done, and not only the development of players for England, but also the development of, I think, Europe and the world's opinions on on England as a team, and kind of like, I don't know. I just think that him being manager has transformed the England national team on a positive. But I do think it's worth saying that things have gone stale, and as sad as I am about it, I think Rob is right. I think it's probably the right time, and yeah, I'd be sad to see him go. Very interested to see what his next move is, let alone England. And yeah,
I personally think he'll take time away from football for a bit, at least a year. I feel like he'll just take the time away from football and maybe just do the odd punditry on maybe like your BBC Match of the Day or your BT or something. I don't feel like he would go straight back into coaching or your management. I don't think.
Yeah, because I think obviously what's going on will have hurt him a lot. A lot more than we had Roy Hodgson, who was manager, who obviously is English but never played for England, never was there. Sam Allardyce the same. Capello was Italian. Sven was Swedish. This is something like the kind of relationship between the players and the manager and the fans is something that we haven't had in our lifetime. We had Sven and we had Steve McLaren and we had all the managers we've had. Gareth is something completely different, and I do think he will take an extended period because it will have hurt him really badly. It'll hurt him more than most.
Right, nearly time to go, but before I do, well, I do love my game shows, and in the words of Mastermind, I've started, so I've finished. So I'll finish. Anyway, so we started with Ben Moss grilling me about what I thought about Shooty series, and we end with the return of Ben Moss, because we did the World Cup of Disney songs, where me and him ranked our favourite Disney songs. And we got it just in time for the Christmas period, because that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be, part of the videos. I really wanted to get it before Christmas. And we did. So that's amazing. And here's a bit from that. Lots of fun. Welcome to the World Cup of Disney songs. Now, many of you, if you know me personally, you'll know that I'm a bit of a Disney nerd. And well, this seems like a no-brainer. Without sounding like I've got the largest ego possible, I've researched useless information which has been in here for absolute donkey's years. So why not actually put it to good use? And joining me, I'm so delighted to have him back. It's my good mate and friend of the channel, Mr. Ben Moss.
Hello, everybody. And I do not have nearly as much useless information on the songs, but I do like a lot of Disney songs, and I like how they connect to the movie. So yes. I thought I'd come along for this video because why not?
Yes, and it's a perfect time, Christmas time. Plenty of Disney films are on the telly. Like Mary Poppins. I mean, if you had a bingo card to say what films would be on Christmas, Mary Poppins, tick. And
Finding Nemo will be on there eventually.
Yep, exactly. So first of all, Ben, I'm going to ask you before we start, what's your first memory of a Disney song?
It's probably going to be The Little Mermaid and the songs in that, and the first song I remember connecting to me personally was Part of Your World.
It's a beautiful song, isn't it?
It is an amazing song. I think the actual direction of that whole scene as well is beautiful. It's
a really wonderful scene. It's a fantastic scene.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like how it makes Ariel seem so small in this frankly small room she starts off in as she goes through the song. It's amazing.
Yeah, no,
amazing directing.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Okay, yes, and what was the first Disney film you remember ever seeing? What was your first memory of it?
It would be The Little Mermaid.
Right,
had that on VHS. It was the first Disney film I ever saw. To memory at least.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So I began with the beginning of the Renaissance.
I know that is very appropriate. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I would hazard a guess at Little Mermaid, and then closely followed by The Lion King. Were probably my first two.
Yep. And did you often have an album of Disney songs playing?
It was a compilation CD.
It's a compilation CD. Yep. Same with me. Yep.
Yep, the best of Disney or whatever. It was like two CDs in one jewel case, the best of Disney or whatever. And that was my compilation CD. Those two CDs saw me all the way through childhood, and are probably somewhere in the attic right now.
Yep, and in that compilation CD, was it the songs that the characters sang, or was it like, pop stars effectively singing?
A mix of both.
It was a mix of both. So you have Phil Collins and you'd have Jim Cummings, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd only get one of certain song on that compilation CD. So
Yes.
if it was Go the Distance, if Michael Bolton's version's on there, you're not going to get you're not going to get the movie version as well on the same disc. But yeah, so you get one stab for each song, and yeah, they seem to just higgledy-piggledy it with whether it's the pop star version or the movie version, and they just seem to put them onto the disc in that way.
Yeah, so that's fair enough. Well, my first memory of the Disney film, I think, I loved the early Disney Pixar films. So from 1995's Toy Story to, I think, 2006 Cars. That for me was the golden period of Pixar. The only one that I didn't like was The Incredibles because, to be honest, I thought it was like watching paint dry to me. So, yeah, absolutely dull. But yeah, no, I loved those films. For those of you who know me personally, and it's not going to be a Randy Newman love fest, but I just loved so many of the songs he wrote for Toy Story, and he did many work with did lots of work with Pixar, and I remember I had a Disney compilation. It was Disney's hit singles and more, and also my first memory of Disney songs were not actually from the films themselves. I used to watch Playhouse Disney, and that was the preschool equivalent of the Disney Channel. And they would have these Envision continuity presenters, Dave and Alex. And they had a segment called Music Time, where either one of Dave or Alex, or sometimes both occasionally, would sing a Disney song. They'd go out into a park and they'd sort of, sing it effectively. And sometimes, quite surprisingly, they went all the effort to using the original instrumental backing tracks that, were used for whatever song from the movies. So it was a combination of that, and we must have worn that CD out because my mum must have been so fed up of having to put that fucking CD on again. I mean, well, she didn't say
I'm
that
sure
word,
it was the same in my house. I'm sure it was the same.
Yeah, and yeah. So, Ben, how is this video going to work?
So, we thought we'd do this a little bit differently because, top 10 lists and, what's your favorite? That's all been done on not only this channel, but on the platform itself. So we thought we'd add a random element to this.
Yes.
I have next to me 2 hats. I have a wizard's hat here for Will, and for me, I have a nice winter hat.
Yep.
And we're going to pick out 2 random cards on here.
Yes.
And those have 2 of 15 of our favorite songs that we put on a list.
Yes.
And now we are going to have to put those songs against each other.
Yes.
To see who wins.
Yes.
Out of these 2 randomly picked songs.
Yes.
And we're going to have to pick a favorite between the 2 by the end of this video. And we're going to do this, I think, about 3 times. 3 times we're going to have our songs battle each other out.
Yes. Yes, it's going to be really, really interesting, and I'm looking forward to this. So, yeah, if you're ready, let's jump in. So, Ben, do you want to do the honours of?
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Yes, you're the guest.
Okay.
You're the guests. So, yep, you go first.
Okay. Hand going in to the hat. Okay, I've got one.
Excellent.
Well, aptly, as we talked about it just recently, I have to put Part of Your World.
Oh, fantastic! Yes.
Up against When You Wish Upon a Star.
Oh my God! Wow. And you will have to watch the video to find out which one won. So that is it from TubeMix's highlights of the year 2024. It's been such a busy year. If I had to sum up the year in 3 words, well, in terms of videos I've done on the channel, Doctor Who, Radio 2, and football. Yeah, I think that will do it. So, thank you for watching. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. And coming up now is some voice messages from my mates and friends of the channel to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And yeah, so over to them. And all that remains for me to say is to wish you a Merry Christmas and a very peaceful and happy New Year. Stay safe, everybody. And I will see you on the other side. Goodbye.
Hello everybody, just wanted to wish everybody on the TubeMix channel a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and just to say thank you for all the support you've given the show throughout the year. We love doing it and can't wait to carry on next year, so enjoy the mince pies and the Christmas cake and the turkey, guys, and stay safe. Hello everyone of the TubeMix YouTube channel. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hope the New Year's a good one for everyone.
Hello everybody, it's Jordan here, also known as JLI Wilson. I have been tasked, as usual at this time of year, to send you all a message, happy holidays. So, I'm going to do that, but I just thought before, I would say that my highlight of the year, and I'm sure all of the boys that are involved with the show would feel the same way, is the return of the football show. I think it's been a fantastic time this time around. It's not quite perfect just yet, but you know, you can't rush art, as they say. And yeah, see you in 2025.
Well, hello everybody, and I hope you guys are having an amazing Christmas and have a brilliant new year. It's been so much fun being here with Will, making some new videos for you guys, and I look forward to making many more into the new year.
Hey, I'm Chloe Hickson, and you may recall that I've joined Will to review Doctor Who. I just want to wish a very happy new year. May your journey through 2025 be marked by exciting adventures and fulfilling experiences. Embrace the opportunities that come your way with enthusiasm. As the new year unfolds, may you be surrounded by support of those around you. Here's to a fantastic new year.